to make sure that you have been able to hear this recording and hear this webinar. We're going to start in about 1 minute, and just wanted to give everyone a chance. So give me 1 more minute, and we'll start the recording and the webinar then. Okay, everyone, thanks again for joining this webinar. My name is Keith Washington. I'm the VP of Products here at CPA Site Solutions, and I'm really excited to be able to bring this information to you and to talk a little bit about client data security in the 21st century. That's kind of an interesting title, but based on the number of people who have signed up for this webinar, I think it's something that people wanted to hear about. Just a couple of notes before I get started. First of all, I will be recording this presentation, so you don't have to take screenshots or try to copy down the data. Everyone who has signed up to attend this webinar will get a copy of this presentation, and we will also put it on our website as one of our content pieces, and we encourage you to go to cpasitesolutions.com to see all of our webinars and take advantage of the information that we provide there. The second comment I want to make is, before we get started, is that you can't talk to me. You can hear me, hopefully, but you can't speak to me. However, if you have questions, there is a questions box on your GoToWebinar panel, and you can ask questions, and towards the end of this presentation I will take a look at the questions that are there and answer them either as a group of verbally, or I will answer them online, either to the group or to you if you have a specific question. That only relates to your particular situation. Lastly, before I get started, we also most of the time have a little 2 or 3 question survey at the end of our webinar. So as you exit the webinar at the end of the presentation, I really encourage you and hope that you will just respond to the survey and answer the questions, and that will really help us to provide better webinars and better content and better information as we go forward and continue with our webinar series. So once again, thanks for joining. The title of this presentation does say Client Data Security in the 21st Century, and I don't want to make anyone afraid or frighten anyone, but I think it's important for us to heighten your awareness of potential threats to you and your clients. So this isn't a fear, uncertainty, and doubt webinar, but it is a serious webinar, as indicated by the fact that a lot of you did sign up. I think the goal is to give you enough information to help you and provide you some context around client data security, but also, maybe problem solve on some of the things that you can do to reduce your risk. So the agenda is really just to, first of all, talk about the importance of cybersecurity in today's online market, and really what's going on, and also the latest information that, some of the things that we see happening in online security today. Third, what you can do to reduce your risk as a firm. You may also be a consumer. In other words, you may, be interested in this as a consumer, or someone in your family needs to know about some of the things that are going on. And then finally, to talk about the benefits of a secure file exchange platform. And I'll talk a little bit about this. This webinar should take about 30 minutes to complete, including your questions. So I hope that we're going to make the best use of time in this busy tax season. I'm aware, I was actually surprised to see the number of people who signed up, given how busy that you are. So it must be an important topic to you as well. So let's start with topic number 1, the importance of cybersecurity in today's online market. Every year, we at CPA Site Solutions get more and more questions from our customers about security of data. Tax return information, as you already know, is a gold mine for bad guys. If you look at this particular slide, scam artists involved in refund fraud stole W-2 information on more than 330,000 people last year directly from the website of the IRS. So it is, it's not something that anyone takes lightly. It gets a lot of attention during tax season, cybersecurity, or W-2 scams or tax return fraud, particularly since tax-related fraud is on the rise. However, as you well know, tax return fraud or cybersecurity is not a seasonal issue. And in order to be successful, in order for you to do the best that you can protect yourself, I just want to encourage you to think about this as a year-round priority, not just a tax season issue. Just to show you how big of this issue is and how important it is, I was just doing a quick search of 2 questions. Tax-related fraud is on the rise. I just went to Google and typed in to see what news stories. It was very instructive to see how prevalent this issue has become, and how it used to be that the big story around tax time, around tax season, was how fast refunds were coming, or things talking about the cost of getting a refund, or really around electronic filing. Now it's about data breaches or W-2 scams. If you look on the left-hand side, and everyone, it's not just for small businesses. On the left-hand side, if you can read that, it says Redmond schools hit by major employee data breach, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. W-2 scam hits West Michigan. So these are actual systems. Here's another one on the left. Watch out for phishing scams when preparing your tax return. Officials warn about the rise in scams targeting taxpayers. One of the really interesting ones is this one down here. Even though attacks are on the rise, taxpayers really say, nobody really seems to care about that. But you as a firm really think it's important. It's an issue. Tax return fraud is big business, and it's an issue for any business, any nonprofit, any government agency, any consumer, and any small business or tax preparer or CPA firm, an accounting firm. So I just want to give you a few tips on what we've seen this year as big tax return scams, and things that you could probably talk to your clients about. Some of the most common tax-related fraud scams, and surprisingly so, is still, number one, phone calls. And this is where someone will get a call, a taxpayer, and the person will threaten police arrest or deportation, demanding the personal information or request to wire money. This isn't something that happens, just at tax season, but as tax season comes along, you may have clients who said, someone called me yesterday and said that they were an IRS agent and that I needed to give them some money, or I needed to give them their W-2 information, confirm their W-2. There's another one where phone calls are targeting students, saying we need to give us money so that you don't have to pay the federal student tax. And then they get threatens to report the student to the police. Probably the most prevalent one is the third one, where people call over the phone to verify tax information. And it's very smooth in the way things are done, when they have just enough information to your name, address, and if I can just verify your Social Security number. And you as CPA firms or practitioners know that the end result of this is to file fraudulent tax returns. If you notice at the slide before, Wisconsin is actually delaying tax returns so they can spend more time tracking fraudulent tax returns. And one of the things that most of the companies say is that the sooner you can get your tax return filed, the better you have in reducing your legitimate tax return file. You can reduce the risk of having someone fraudulently file a tax return. So this is the number one issue is phone calls, and they could be mistaken for your firm. So someone could call and say, I am with Jones firm or whatever firm, and this could be happening to some of your clients. One thing we're seeing also is that it is this particular scam is affecting immigrants, people who have legitimate Social Security numbers and are afraid that that the IRS agent is coming to get them. So one of the things you can do in this particular case is make sure that you educate your clients about how you expect to communicate with them about anything, and that if they get questions from outside about their tax return, about their business, about their personal information, to make sure that they contact you first. Another one that's really grown in popularity over the past few years and took a different twist this past year is a scam called phishing. It really, if I had a picture of it, but our marketing team took it out of someone phishing for data, and it's really a fraudulent practice of sending emails. So you send a bunch of emails to be from a reputable company, and sometimes people respond. What happens, and by the way, this could happen to you too. A couple of things could happen. One, you can respond by providing the information that's sensitive in email, which is a double whammy because you're sending information by email. Or two, malware or viruses can be placed on your computer by responding to it. I'll give you an example. This actually happened to our company. And if you look on the right-hand side, a legitimate email can be sent from someone who looks like it's in your firm or in our company. In this case, our HR person actually got an email that looked like it was from our CEO asking for her to send the W-2 information for all employees. Luckily, she's savvy enough to know, well, that's strange. Why would he be asking me for that information? And so she contacted him and said, well, you really want me to send this? And he, of course, said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so we were able to make sure that we didn't have that information. We have other security policies in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. The Secretary of Homeland Security said that phishing is the biggest threat to our cybersecurity, and already this tax season, 29,000 victims have been hit with this kind of system. And it doesn't just happen, again, to consumers. This could be something that happens to your firm, where an email can be sent to one of your tax preparers or one of your front office staff that says, hey, please send me the W-2s of our clients. Please look, go find it and send it to me. And if you happen to be out of town, or if it's on the weekend and you're not working, and that person responds to that email, that is a security risk for you. Another common tax-related fraud is data breaches. It's really important. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about data breaches, but starting on the left-hand side of this slide, the first thing to notice, CNBC through CyberScout asked the question, where is my client data stored? 30% of tax firms or tax preparer CPAs said on my computer's hard drive. That's pretty good. That's okay. 10% online with a cloud storage provider, and I'll talk a little bit about that more. 17% said it was on an encrypted USB drive. That's really interesting because I think that just because you have a USB drive, you think it's encrypted, but it may not be. Probably the most disturbing is that 45% of tax preparers said, I'm not sure, or I don't save my tax documents. And as people in practice, first of all, you need to save tax return documents. What do you mean you don't save them? And 30% saying, I'm not sure, is very concerning, given that we see that cyber fraud is on the rise. Protecting your clients' information and your firm information is probably one of the most critical parts of you doing business. And that's the same for us as a software provider to our clients. It's important for us too. And the IRS said just recently, it's a legal responsibility of both businesses and individuals that maintain, share, transmit, or store taxpayer data to have safeguards in place to protect client information. So it's important, it's critical, it's a legal responsibility, meaning that you can't say, well, I'm not sure. You have to be able to know how you're protecting your client and your firm information. A lot of times your client information is part of your firm information, meaning that you shouldn't be transmitting information or storing information or passing information through email, especially if it's unsecure. And that you have to really protect the physical location, the physical area of your data, of your client's data. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what you can do to reduce your risk. But before I do that, I just want to make sure we're clear. Again, this is not to generate unnecessary fright. Most people, the vast majority of firms and consumers do not get hit with tax-related fraud. However, if it happens to you, and we see this rarely from our customers, if it happens to you, it really feels like a bad thing. And a lot of people The few customers we've seen who've run into these areas say, I should have done X, Y, or Z. So it's important to do whatever you can to mitigate your risk. So good news, I have a few tips to help you reduce your risk, what you can do to reduce your risk of cyber theft. And I'm just going to walk around this lock, this visual lock, starting with the left-hand top side, security, and talk about some of the ways that you can reduce your risk. First of all, in security, make sure that taxpayer data, including data that's sitting on your computer, data that's sitting on a USB drive, is never left unsecured. What I mean by that is, do not leave your laptop in your office over the weekend. Make sure that you don't just leave your taxpayer information that's stored on a laptop in your front seat of your car while you go to the store. Make sure that you never leave it unsecure, that you're taking care of this data as you would something very important, that you know where all your USB USB drives are, that you keep them secure. Number two, accessibility. I'm on the right-hand side. Make sure that you use caution when allowing or granting remote access to individual networks, to internal networks containing sensitive data. If you have employees that are remote, or if you are logging in remotely, you should use a virtual private network. It's not hard to get a VPN, is what its acronym is, and so that you're not just logging into your computer system from your Wi-Fi network at home without a VPN. Make sure, because hackers can get into that information while you are logged into that computer. Make sure that the third one, make sure that if you're disposing of client information, make sure you do it securely. That means shredding your information. There are everyone knows that there's certain laws around getting rid of taxpayer data after a certain amount of time. Make sure you dispose of that information in the right way, making sure that you're archiving the information in a secure location. On the bottom right, terminating access. And this is something we see happen on a regular basis, and it's very important. If someone leaves your company or leaves your practice and they had access to your system, make sure you terminate access to that system. Change the password through your administrative rights. Make sure you delete them from the system. As a software company, we're required to do that. Anyone who decides to resign, they lose access to our system from the moment they resign, because we are required to protect our information and our clients' information. This is very important. Changing passwords. I'm on the bottom left-hand side. Require, and that's the key word, require periodic password changes every 60 to 90 days. You should do that if you haven't done that. And by the way, I know of customers who haven't changed their passwords in years. Do it this afternoon. Do it this evening, and make sure you have a password that's a strong password, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And lastly, in the left-hand middle, encrypting data. Make sure that you store data in secure systems that encrypt that information. Encryption really is turning regular data, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, into code or a cipher, so that it's unreadable if stolen. So if somehow data breaches do happen, data breaches happen at Walmart, Target, everywhere, even as you saw the IRS, if the data is encrypted, it becomes much more difficult for someone to decipher the information that is encrypted. So make sure that you store it in systems, and ask about encryption of data if you are working with a third party who stores your data. I'm going to go through this section again, and I hope that this information is helpful. Paper document locations. You should never just leave your client's tax returns, W-2s, files in an unsecure location. If it's on a flash drive, it's on a computer disk, make sure that that information is secure. If you came into my office and you looked at my desk, I have all kinds of paper all over my desk. None of it is sensitive information. But you, as in practice, have more sensitive information, and you should be moving towards becoming paperless, but make sure that you lock away any files that you have so that people can't get to it, and make sure only people who have authorized users have access to that information. Top right-hand side, email. Email that's being sent or received that contains taxpayer data must be encrypted and secure. And I'm going to say this a little bit more firmly. Don't use email to send sensitive, personally identifiable information of your customers. Just don't use it. Some of you may have secure email systems, and that's good, and that's better, but you should not be sending taxpayer information, tax returns, documents for signature through email. Just don't do it. There are other ways for you to get that information. Avoiding dangers, that's kind of a title for that. You need to protect your facilities. I think everyone knows that, but making sure that your office is locked, and making sure that people who shouldn't have access to your office don't have access to your office. Probably one of the most important things is periodic training for your staff. Making sure that your staff is aware and trained on the threats that are around, and so that they can help to protect your information. It's something that you can't be everywhere at all times, and if you have a larger firm, you want to make sure that your staff understands the importance and make sure that they're aware of what they should be doing with respect to your customers, to your clients' data. There's lots of online, low-cost or free online courses that you can take or that they can take, that you can make sure that they have it. I'm on the bottom left-hand side. I like going in a circle. Strong passwords are very important. I can't tell you the number of customers that we have had, and now we're requiring strong passwords, but customers who had a password of 123 or 456 or password is always popular. You should have strong passwords with numbers, symbols, upper and lowercase. And by the way, I'm aware, because I have so many passwords with all of the systems that I use, whether it be Amazon shopping or my Gmail account or whatever it is, it's almost impossible to remember all of the passwords that you have, and most of the systems in place have a way to resolve that if you forgot your password. But if you haven't changed your password in a long time and you know that password is a simple, non-strong password, make sure you change that, because it makes it easy for systems to breach your data if your password is not strong. I'm in the middle. The last thing I want to talk about is overall security requirements. In general, you should have security requirements for your staff, including all your computer systems, all of your paper records, all of the taxpayer data. Make sure that you have all of this information and you've articulated these security requirements. It's tough to do that. Now it's in the middle of March, and you've got 28 days for you to, if you're focused on individual tax preparation. But you should have a plan for being able to understand how you can create these security requirements. So really, effective cybersecurity requires that you be regular, proactively managing and reducing the risk of threats to your firm with respect to your customer information. It includes annual assessments of all of your IT risks. If you have an IT person, they should be doing, even at no charge, an assessment and recommendations on how you can reduce your risk. Making sure, and it's not difficult to do, that you test the controls that you have related to monitoring and protecting your data. Making sure, do I have locks on all of my cabinets that have secure information? Have I changed my passwords? Do the people who, if I have seasonal staff, do I make sure that I remove their access when they're not working with me, until next season? Do I take them off the system so that they don't, have unauthorized access? And then frequently training your employees to make sure that they know what's going on, that they're able to answer your client's question. In short, you should have a security plan. There's ways for you to quickly create a security plan. You can find them online. A lot of companies can help you do that as well. What happens if you do have a data breach? And I pulled this from the IRS website because I thought it said, well, what if somebody does? Well, what do I do? It's still very rare that this actually happens. But if it does happen, there's certain things that the IRS has recommended that you do. Number one, you need to contact your local IRS stakeholder liaison. That liaison will notify IRS criminal investigation. And the purpose of this is if you think you have a data breach and someone has stolen taxpayer data like Social Security numbers or W-2 information, you want to notify the IRS immediately so that they can be watching for the fraudulent tax return that may come in. Because a fraudulent tax return delays a real tax return from being filed. So you want to let them know immediately. They also recommend you contact your local FBI office. They also, if the local FBI office directs you to contact Secret Service of your local office, the Secret Service local office, and then local police to file a police report on a potential data breach. If you're in, and also in any state in which you prepare returns, you should contact the state agency and the state's attorney general. By the way, when you contact the state agency, just know, because I've seen this happen once since I've been at CPA Site Solutions, they're very helpful and certainly care about this information because it's a problem for them as well. So don't be afraid to contact them. And then you might want to consider contacting a security expert, right, to make sure that they can help you understand the cause of the breach. And if you need to, contact your insurance company to make sure if your insurance policy covers data breach mitigation expenses. Lastly, I just want to talk about the benefits of a secure file exchange in data. So think about the fact that I've talked about securing paper information, not sending information by email, making sure that you're taking care of your client data and not leaving it on your desk. One of the best ways, and as a matter of fact, the IRS now is moving towards this as a requirement, is to store and exchange information using a secure file exchange system. At CPAS, we call it a portal, or the Secure Firm Portal. And I'm going to talk about the benefits of this because state and federal guidelines are starting to restrict the use of email for delivery of client data. However, we're in an electronic world, and you may be also dealing with clients who are not local to you. A lot of firms are now doing tax returns or supporting businesses through, across state lines and in a lot of different areas, and your client can't always walk, and you certainly do not want them just to regularly mail their business information. So you would use a portal or a web portal. In our case, we call it the Secure Firm Portal, to make sure that you're exchanging information through that. This diagram on the right-hand side really helps you understand it. Starting with your computer is transmitting or receiving information from a portal server. That's at the top, and that information is transmitted securely or encrypted, and also stored securely. So if you hear companies talk about it, what we say is that the data that you have, that you're transmitting or receiving to and from your client, is secured in transit and at rest. Meaning, while it's sitting on the server, it's secure. When you transmit that data, it's secure because we are breaking that data up into an encrypted package and then sending it across lines. Why is that important? Because hackers try to get into the server, and it must be secure. And they also have ways to listen and steal information across the internet as it's being transmitted. So that needs to be secure as well. In our case, we store all of our information in Amazon Web Services, which is one of the leading providers of secure hosting in the world. And we also have a backup server, just in case, if you guys know that Amazon actually had to shut down their internet because their internet access was compromised just a few days ago. So they just shut it down for a little while, but we also have backup servers sitting in Amazon Web Services. So we have the best security when it comes to being able to store and while your information is sitting in our system. Some of the benefits, and I think you get it. First of all, you can upload and encrypt files of any size instantly. It's pretty easy to use, but you no longer have to worry about Email, certain email systems have limitations in terms of the file size. You can upload and securely store any size of file. If a client decides they want to send you a document, you're automatically notified when new documents are sent into your system. If you scan documents, so for instance, you have a hard copy paper, you can scan that information and then store it in the secure firm portal, right? Rather than you putting it in a file cabinet, for instance. You certainly can reduce any mailing and admin costs of maintaining hard copy document files. It gives you a better way of being able to maintain information for a number of years and then systematically deleting that information when you are required to. You spend a lot less time filing and organizing paper documents, and you can be a up-to-date firm so that your clients can feel secure that you are, providing them with the level of information or level of security that you need. Our secure firm portal is, as I said, encrypts data while it's on the server and in transit. Some systems encrypt data in transit but not on the server. Some systems encrypt data on the server but not in transit. We safeguard your data all along the way to make sure that we're providing encrypted data during transfer and file storage. I just also want to say it's pretty easy to use. Clients is really interesting. Something that we added in our system this time last year, is that clients now have to accept an invitation. We call it a handshake method. Rather than you just adding clients to the system, clients have to get emailed an invitation to the system, and then they accept the invitation so that they now become a secure client rather than just everybody being added to the system. But once they're handshaked into your system, then they can easily drag and drop files. You can have account-specific user management. You control, by the way, how staff, how contractors, and clients interact with the system. So for instance, if you have contractors who you only want to work on certain files, you can limit what files they see, what files they use, what files they have access to. And for all of it, and probably most importantly, you get an audit trail of any account activity, and you can set it up with unlimited user accounts. And by the way, it's free with your website. I think for our current customers, if you're not using our secure firm portal, and we have surprisingly more customers than we'd like not using it, all you have to do is start using it today. If you're not a client, you have two options. You can buy the portal as a standalone component, or it's free if you buy a website from us, and it's all integrated with your website, so your clients can go to your website, log in, exchange documents with you. They can see the documents that you have ready for them, all in a secure manner to help reduce your risk of security issues. Just lastly, and this is our commercial slide, and I'm proud to talk about it. CPA Site Solutions is dedicated to helping accounting firms achieve measurable practice growth through innovative marketing solutions. We have a number of different solutions, but today I just want to focus and let you know that in terms of security, it's very important. It's becoming more and more difficult, and you need an industry leader to be able to help you reduce your risk of security breaches. So that ends the formal portion of the presentation. I'd like to take a few minutes to see if we have any questions. Again, you can ask me questions in the questions box that's associated with the GoToWebinar, and I will see if we have any questions for the group. Otherwise, I really thank you for taking the time to listen. We've had a lot of people join. Really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. And if I don't join back on, I thank you and hope you have a great rest of your day. Please don't hesitate to ask me questions. If I see any that are for the group, I will bring it up, or I will read it out loud and see if I can answer them. Are there any questions? I see that someone has their hand raised. That's one good way, but I think the best thing to do is to look in the questions box and then answer, and then I can answer the questions. See if I can. So the person asked, do you have any recommendations on Dropbox or Box? Quite frankly, I will say that Dropbox is a generic version of what we consider to be a secure firm portal. The difference is that our solution is built for CPAs and accounting systems and accounting practices to exchange files with their clients. So the way we've set up the system and the way we think about secure document storage, secure document exchange is a little bit different from Box. One other thing that, so yes, you could use Dropbox. However, what we also provide is a secure email marketing system. We provide you with access through the portal to other components like a tax organizer and other tax tools, other things within the portal that you can use to help you engage with your clients. So our secure firm portal is really based, it was actually built as a client communication vehicle a few years ago, but over time security became more important than just information. So I would encourage you, you can take a look at Box. It has the same types of security but not built specifically for tax preparers or CPA firms. Other questions? So I had a question about a recommendation on cyber insurance, and I must say I don't. But whoever asked that question, I will check around at our company and see who has a recommendation for that. That's a great question. And I will send you a note back if I can. So what I'll do, and I appreciate everyone's time, I will stay online for a little while and answer questions online. Thanks again for taking the time this afternoon. Remember, as you exit the webinar, if you're done, you should see a small survey. So please don't hesitate to, and we appreciate it if you could answer the questions. And thanks and have a good day. But I'll answer any questions that come up online for a little while longer.